In my 3 years as a neuroscience major, I've learned that there's nothing as important for your academic success as motivation. You can have all the natural talent and understanding in the world, but if you're not seriously motivated to do well in your classes, then you're going to perform mediocre regardless of what you do. And what I've also learned is that finding that motivation is fairly simple. It doesn't take years of thought to figure out exactly what should push you through your classes, but instead we can actually determine for ourselves what's going to motivate us through these classes and pick our own goals to make our studies feel more meaningful and more directed. The main problem with the way most people study is that they don't have any idea of why they're actually doing it. For the average student, they think to themselves, I want an A in this class because it'll look good on my transcript and that will look good for future jobs maybe. But the problem is, the motivation of the grade itself is not enough to really drive you to do really, really well. At the end of the day, the people who are trying to get A's because they want a resume boost are going to be outperformed by the people who are terrified of failure and the people who have really, really ambitious goals in the future. Now, my first tip comes from a YouTube video I watched a while ago from a YouTuber named Hamza. And his point was that if we want to succeed academically or in any other realm of our life, we have to set very, very ambitious goals. This is to say that if we want motivation, we can't just tell ourselves that we're studying so we can get a good grade. Because at the end of the day, that letter means next to nothing in our brains. We need to set an actual future goal that's going to drive us through our study sessions and imbue a fire in us to actually go out and crush our studies. So instead of saying, I want all A's this semester, you might say something like, I want to be the best doctor of all time, or I'm going to be one of the best engineers to ever live. Setting extremely, extremely ambitious goals is a great practice because even if you don't actually achieve your initial goal, even if you don't get 100% of the way there, regardless of what you do, you'll most likely end up a lot better than if you hadn't set that goal. And when it comes to our academic performance, it's really important to set these big goals because getting all A's in a semester is entirely achievable. We might feel that it might be slightly out of our grasp, but at the same time, most likely if you try really hard, you can accomplish this feat. At the same time, when we have a super, super ambitious goal, like becoming the next Einstein or creating better forms of sustainable energy, then it sort of imbues a feeling in us of, I'm going to go above and beyond. I don't do just the minimum to achieve the grade I want in my class, but instead I'm going to crush all my studies and try as hard as I can in every single class. And this will improve your grades more than just aiming for a specific number. So start setting very ambitious goals. Forget about the number or the grade in your class. The number is not what matters. What matters is that you have a very, very ambitious goal and you're doing everything you can to achieve that goal. So whatever classes are in your way, they're simply stepping stones. And it's not even a matter of if you're going to get an A in this class or not. You simply have to achieve what you want to achieve. So you have more motivation to go out and just do it. Now, the second point I want to make is that having the motivation to actually go out and do well in your classes is very, very dependent on how you see yourself and what you think of yourself. If you don't see yourself as the person who can get all A's in their classes, then you're not going to get all A's in your classes. I've experienced this personally as my grades have gradually increased throughout my college experience, as I've gradually realized that there's no barrier between me and getting good grades. So it's important that you find every opportunity to make yourself more confident in your own academic abilities. And what this means is looking back at past classes that you've done really well in and seeing these as sort of points on the board and saying, if I've already done well in classes like these, there's no reason I can't also do well in my future classes. Extrinsic motivation is also super important. In the same way that we might go into a workout or a sports game, bumping really intense music to hype ourselves up, we can do this with our studies too. If you get in that mindset before a study session that, you know what, I'm the man, I'm gonna crush this test, like there's nothing that can stop me. If we sort of hype ourselves up and recognize ourselves as that kind of person who can really just decimate this class and do super well on this test, then it's more likely that we're actually gonna put in the work and be more motivated to go out and do that. If you see yourself as someone who's at the mercy of whatever classes you're taking, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to do well in them because you have these limiting beliefs about how difficult the class is or your ability to do well in them. But once you sort of have that mindset switch and you view yourself as someone who's above the class, that doesn't even matter for you because you're just going to get an A regardless, once you've sort of flipped that switch in your mind, you essentially become unstoppable and no class you ever take is going to be able to defeat you. My last piece of advice on how to motivate yourself through your studies is actually something that I like doing a lot myself. And this is to find someone who's either at your skill level when it comes to a class or slightly better and attempt to get ahead of them in that class. So I, for example, have a couple friends in the neuroscience major with me who are very, very smart. And when I'm in a class with them, I look at their performance and I think to myself, you know what? This is like a game. This is like a competition. And we're gonna see who can do the best in this class. So if my friend gets an A on the test, then I have no excuse to not also get an A. Having this sort of friendly competition, and even if you don't do it explicitly with someone else, even if they don't even know about the competition in your mind, even just setting that competition for yourself and thinking, you know what, this person's really amazing at this class, I'm gonna make it my goal to compete with them or beat them at this class. It sort of gamifies the process of studying, and it makes it a whole lot more enjoyable, because as opposed to tests as something you dread, they become something that you see as a benchmark where you can actually judge your progress and judge if you've beaten this other person or not. So it makes the whole process a lot more fun. And when it comes to motivating ourselves, we want to have fun. We don't want to just be stressed all the time. Even though studying can be stressful, and at times it definitely will be stressful, we want to minimize how much stress we're actually experiencing. So if we have any opportunity to make it more enjoyable or more fun, we should definitely do this. So having some friendly competition, competing with someone in your class to see who can do better is an amazing first step to motivate yourself. Now, as always, if you're still here till the end, I really appreciate you watching. If you like videos like this on productivity for college students, you should subscribe. There's going to be a whole lot more videos like this soon. But until then, I'll see you guys.